this hair out of the way. I'm using the doll that I use for the piggyback. Okay. So 9, 10 sections, as we usually have been doing. I'm gonna be working down here in the nape, so I'm gonna change my drape a little bit. Just wanna put it lower. I'm just gonna change the whole thing. You still wanna use a double drape. Please make sure of that. I just want to put it a little lower for today. Okay, I'm going to raise my doll a little bit here. Make sure you use your stand to your advantage because we're going to be working in the nape area here for a little bit. So I'm going to raise her. I'm going to put these up. So we're going to start for the nape. For this perm, we're going to start in the nape. And I'm going to start on the, just for my own sake, I'm starting on the left side. So when you take out your nape subsection, the first one, what you're going to do, the first subsection is going to be 1 inch, a 1 inch subsection. So I'm going to, it should be between 1/2 inch and 1 inch, but no less than 1/2 inch, no more than 1 inch. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to take a 1 inch subparting. What do I mean by that? Oh, that's way too small. So if you look at this from the side, this is a 1 inch right here, subparting. Has everybody got that? Or does anybody have any question about that so far? Okay, since I still have some hair left in that subsection, that's why I asked you to have your yoettes out, because it's easy, you can see this easier. I'm just going to clip the rest of that subsection out of the way with the yoette on that one. Okay, I'm going to wet this down and I'm going to go to the middle nape section next. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to line up my subsection with the one I just made so that I have left out 1 inch of hair in the nape. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take a yoette and I'm going to take that section of hair and clip it out of the way so it's easy to work from with the yoette. It's okay if you comb them together now. And then I'm going to go to that last nape section. I'm going to be consistent with my other sectioning, 1 inch. And I'm going to take that hair and clip it up with the yoette. Is everybody good with that? Does everybody understand what I mean by that? Just clipping it out of the way because we're going to be working from it. I'm going to wet my subsection. So this is very important that the subsection you create is absolutely no more than 1 inch. If it is, you'll be doing it wrong and they won't lay on top of each other like we need them to. Okay, the next thing, the next subparting that you have is going to be the width of the roller. So this is where a lot of work comes in on piggyback, spiral perms. So you just take the roller, the measurement, the width of the roller, and that's where your subsection is. So it's about 1/2 inch. So this is what your strand of hair should look like. Okay, no more than this, no less than this. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you the wrong way to wrap a spiral perm. Remember again now, the spiral perm is also going to be bookend wrap, and we're going to do it the long way. And the same thing applies. You don't bunch the hair in the corner, and you don't just mush it in there. You always want to extend past the ends with the paper. Okay, I'm going to show you the wrong way to do this. You come in with your rod, you put it in the middle. Whoops, I lost it. That's really wrong. Start again. Okay, I'm going to come in. I'm going to wrap the hair in the middle of the rod. I'm going to come up to the scalp, and I'm going to place the rod. Okay, if your rod sets that much on the scalp like that, that is wrong. That is what we call a candlestick. It looks just like when we wrap a basic perms, but it's candlestick, so it's instead of horizontal, it's vertical. This is wrong. The rod is not hanging right. The hair is not spiraled enough on there. So that's what we don't want. There, can I see a thumbs up that everybody gets that that is this demo that I just did is the wrong way? Thank you. So I'm going to show you the right way. So you always want to hold the hair out at a 90 degrees. You're going to bookend that paper. You always, wet your paper. All right, your end wraps. You're going to come over, we all know we wrap paper first, right? So we're going to start at the very, very bottom of the rod. Very bottom. I want you to wrap 2 times around the bottom. 2 full wraps, and then you're going to start spiraling the hair up the rod. Until you get to the scalp. Then you put your band, and the rod hangs there. Can everybody see the difference between the way I wrapped this one and the way I wrapped it incorrectly? Can I see a thumbs up, or do you have any questions? Okay, thank you. So that's what you're going to continue to do all the way across this subsection. So I'm just going to continue that. Again, don't make these any, it can't be any wider than lengthwise an inch. And then it has to be a ½ inch rod width. Don't start to get, if you wrap your hair where you took this to be an inch section, that's wrong. And I'm going to ask you to rewrap it because you're over directing and bunching hair. It has to be rod width. One second. I'm trying to have my drape so that you guys can see what I'm doing, and it's falling. So I'm just going to fix it here.
Sorry, Miss Salito, I missed it, but are we doing the bookend?
Bookend.
Okay.
Bookend long ways. Just like we use for the other technique. Yeah?
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Yes. All right, so 1/2 inch subsection rod width. 90 degrees. Bookend wrap. Bookend, come over the end of the hair. Always wrap end paper first. Now, here's the next difference. Okay, we're going to be wrapping the rods all going, they're going to the right. They're going to the right. So that's when I start behind the paper. If you want to make your rods go this way, which we're going to do for the next row, you're going to start your wrap in front. The paper is going to go in front of the rod, and you're going to turn the rod to the left. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So remember also, you're going to start at the very bottom of the rod. How many times do I want you to wrap around before you start to spiral up the hair? Can somebody tell me?
Twice,
How many?
2 times.
Yep. So now that I've wrapped on the very bottom twice, I'm going to start to spiral up the strand. Get all the way. Again, make sure the band goes behind the rod, close to the scalp, and then it has to hang there. Okay, next subsection. Two times around the very bottom, as close to the bottom as you can get. You're out at a 90, then we start to spiral up the rod. Holding out at a 90. Starting on the bottom. Remember the end paper has to go fast. Remember, we don't bunch the hair in the corner of the end wraps. We want to go 1, 2 times around the bottom before we start to spiral like a candy cane up the rod. You see how close these are? If they start to get too far apart, that means you're taking really big sections. This perm isn't necessarily a fast one. When you guys are, after you do this one time, there will probably only be a few of you that will want to do this again. I'm only going to ask you to do this once. You can always do the piggyback, or some people like the vertical when they want to get their double perms. Very few people will do this one because it's a lot of work, but it's super good to know how to do because you will have clients that will ask you for this. Any questions so far? Today, when you're doing this, I want to see everybody's bottom row before they move up to the next row, just to make sure you're not candlesticking. The bottom section that you drop down is no bigger than 1 inch, because you'll candlestick if you do that, and that's not the right way to do this perm. We did have some ladies that wanted their perms wrapped that way back in the day, but they weren't considered spiral perms. So again, I'm wrapping the rod. It's going counterclockwise right now. It's going towards my window. I'm going to do my next row going towards, I'm going to be wrapping it clockwise. And I want you guys to do one row one way and the next row the other way. So when I'm talking about that, again, also always make sure you don't bunch the hair in the corner of your end paper. Everybody knows what I mean by that, right? And you always go past your ends with the paper because you want to wrap paper first. You're at a 90-degree angle. We wrap 2 times on the bottom of the rod. Then we start our spiral, coming up the rod like a candy cane. And this is my last one in this row. Okay, so I just want you to pay attention to the fact that I'm wrapping counterclockwise. So that means when I'm facing this way, I put my rod behind my end papers. And then I'm wrapping towards my back window here, counterclockwise. And the next row, I'm going to do clockwise. I want you to do at least 1 or 2 rows that way. And then I don't mind if you wrap one way for the rest, but you should be able to wrap both. Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rods in the bottom. They're hanging. They're very spiraled like they should be. I'm going to drop my next subsection. Remember, I made it easy on myself because I put it up here in clippies. Now my next subsection is a little smaller than 1 inch. So I'm going to work on that because that would make a tremendous amount of work for myself. Okay, so I'm going to take from here. I'm just going to make it, please don't make it any more than 1 inch. I will ask you to start over. That's still a little small. So we'll be working from this row now. Okay, that's 1 inch. And I'm going to put this up with clippies. Now I'm going to the middle section. It's going to bring down a little bit more hair to make it 1 inch. And I'm going to put that up with the Yoette clippy. And then I'm going to come to my last one, even that one out. Well, I don't have another clippy. I think it fell, so. Okay. Okay, I'm going to start over here again. Or you can start on the other side, doesn't matter. Same thing. Make sure you only have rod size, diameter of the rod width section. want to make sure that's like really out of my way. This time I'm going to wrap the rod going clockwise. Come out at your 90. Book end. Don't bunch the hair in the corner. Extend past the ends. Okay, so the difference. This time I'm putting my end paper behind my rod, and I'm going to wrap this way. Same thing's going to happen. Wind 2 times around the bottom, still at my 90 degrees, and I'm just going that way. So we've got 1 row on the bottom going counterclockwise, and we've got this one going clockwise. I'm spiraling up. And this rod hangs over the other rod. Take my next section, follow the same. Does everybody understand the clockwise, counterclockwise thing? Yes? And for me, it works. Hold on here. It works. My bands are up and I put them on the bottom. I close them on the bottom because it's all much easier to take the perm out that way, because otherwise all the top bands are all underneath. So again, my rod goes in front of my end paper. I'm wrapping clockwise now. 2 winds around the bottom. Hold the rod at a 90. Make a candy cane. Spiral that hair up the rod. And it hangs over the other rods. Please don't make these sections too wide. I will ask you to resection. Does everybody understand what I mean by that? It should only be the diameter of the rod. Otherwise, it's incorrect. Bookend, long ways. The hair is hanging over the rods. Does everybody feel like they got the gist of this? Yes, you want me to keep going? Anybody?
So it's just the same exact way on the sides. You just like.
So
take it-
yeah, what you're gonna do when you get up to here, when you feel you can start parting the sides, you part the side with it. And then you'll have the sides down, all the hair in the back and the sides, and you'll just do from here all the way around the head, the next one from here, all the way around the head. Once the sides should fit into the next section, maybe a little row of them. So you just start sectioning that way. Does everybody understand that? Yes?
Is that thing that we do with like the client, like one is clockwise, the other one is counterclockwise?
Yes, correct.
Get the spiral look? Okay.
Yes. Great question. Anybody else? But these rods have got to like almost hang over the other rods or you're not doing it right. So let's go step by step, like show me Your sectioning, show me what you've taken out. I want to see if it's too bigger than it is. If anything, make it a tiny bit under an inch. And then make sure your diameter of your sections are rod size, so they should only be a half an inch. And then I want to see your bottom row wrapped and know which way you wrapped it. Good? You guys ready to get started? Okay. 3 cheers for spiral perms.